Welcome to another episode of Mindful City, Tuning into Life, a podcast that brings you an intimate exploration of the businesses, practitioners, and artists making an impact in our community. Join us on Patreon for an exploration of all the people, places, and things that raise consciousness in our community by telling us about the businesses and happenings you'd like to know more about, and we'll explore them for you. Welcome to another episode of Mindful Cities, Tuning into Life. I'm your co-host, Helen Blocker, and we have with us our other co-host, Heather Gritzmacher. Today, we have a very special guest, Jason Demchock, with us. And so welcome, everyone. Good to have you. Love hosting with Heather, and Heather brings the best guests on the show. You know, I was telling in the last episode that every time when someone comes on the show, it's like a vision in my life because everyone appears right at the time where I need that information, and I love connecting. It's like a playbook of my life. And when I was introduced to Jason by Heather, I was looking so much at your beautiful website and the focus and the passion that you have for bringing us into harmony with our bodies, in harmony with nature, and how the mind-body connection just allows us to have that harmony in our life. And so much of that has to do with our gut as well. So I can't wait to dive deeper into this, and I'd like to welcome you to the show, Jason.
Thank you so much. Wonderful to be here with you guys.
So, Jason, I want to get right to the guts.
The king of fiber, ladies and gentlemen. We call him the king of fiber.
So how did you even get into the work of dealing with gut health? And what is that connection even when it comes to the mind-body connection that you're referring to and that you're so passionate about? Tell us a little bit how you even got there.
Well, how I got here has just been, a journey to take care of my own health. I did have really painful, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, since I was really young. And, I was always into health, and I would try all of the, read all the books, try all the different diets, like everything from the paleo, like eating like a caveman, supposedly, to the keto diet, and nothing really helped my IBS, but, I just thought it was part of life. And I met an amazing doctor, Shanhong Lu. She's from China, but she has a MD and she has a PhD in physiology. And she taught me really the fundamentals of health, which is diet and detox, right? You got to get the good stuff in and you got to take the bad stuff out. Sadly, we live in a world now where there's so much bad stuff around. Like you get that new car smell. Those are toxins, like you open up a rug, you're getting toxins. So she was blowing my mind with the results she was getting by removing these toxins using safe, natural means. But then she told me, oh, and you ought to go on the whole food plant-based diet, which I thought was crazy. I said, what are you talking about? Like most people think you're not going to get enough protein and there's all these carbs, so I was afraid of carbs, and I debated with her, and every point I had, she was able to debunk me. And I was just left like, what the hell? I got to try this. I tried it for 10 days, like what she recommended. And for the first time in my entire life, in 3 decades, my gut felt better. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, what is this? I started diving into the research. The whole food plant-based diet is the only diet that you can legally say can reverse heart disease and diabetes and soon to be Alzheimer's. It's well documented. There's more research out there than any other diet pointing to this. You heard of the Mediterranean diet, but this is even, you take out the meat and the eggs and the dairy, you get even better results. This is shown over and over again. But if you go on Facebook or, if you listen to the pop culture, they're going to tell you you're not getting enough protein. So I was blown away that I fell for that propaganda. But that was only the beginning. Then I read this book called Fiber Fueled by a gastroentomologist who was a meat eater and everything. And he was looking at colon cancer. That was his job, doing colonoscopies. And then he started looking into the research. He's like, wait a minute, fiber is directly connected to, colon health. And then he just went deeper and deeper, and he wrote this book called Fiber Fueled, and he shows that every single different thing you eat, an apple, a piece of broccoli, a potato, every little fiber feeds a slightly different microbe in your gut. So the more different vegetables and fruits you get, you don't get fiber in meat. You only get fiber in vegetables and fruits and seeds and nuts and, and grains. So the more you eat, the more diverse. Like we think of a diverse culture, right? Mm-hmm. You literally, so let me tell you, can I tell you a quick story?
Yes, please.
So imagine, I know Heather and I've talked about this. Imagine a community, a big thriving community. It's got diversity, and you have people growing food everywhere. Everyone's healthy. Kids are playing around the fire at night, telling stories. And the unique thing about this community is every member of the community is encouraged and praised for their uniqueness, and they contribute their uniqueness. And all of this uniqueness together creates this amazing community that never stops growing, because one person adds their uniqueness, then the place grows, another person gets inspired. And I say all this because this is exactly what's happening inside your gut, in a healthy gut. If you're feeding, your microbiome doesn't have arms and legs. So you're their host. You're going around getting the food to feed them. They're eating it. And every one of them that eats it, they produce chemicals that feed another one of these microbes. And there's literally trillions of them. So they're all communicating. And the more different the different diversity of fiber you eat, the more diverse and, this environment is. And the sum total of all of their communication is actually a brain, is our second brain. So if they're thriving and they're communicating, they literally produce the same neurotransmitters you produce in your brain: serotonin, GABA, dopamine. So if you have a healthy gut, it means you're going to be more intuitive. Mm-hmm. You're going to be in a better mood. You're going to have more focus, not to mention that the physical health benefits. So it really is a mind and body benefit you get.
I love that image of the brain, being like the gut has its own brain in a sense, right? Yeah. That it can make decisions, good and bad decisions, for your body. And exactly. I'm curious because I'm sure you're working with clients and really seeing what's happening in this world. This is a very interesting time in our lives where there's any information that you need is now accessible, but it's almost so much information that you can't decipher anymore what's real, what's helpful. And we're back at a place where you really need this helping hand to break it down and make it into bite-sized pieces, or a way that you can help us to see us understand that. And what are you seeing when you deal with clients and those that are coming to you with all the information that's out there? What is in our way from achieving that balance?
Wow. You have an hour? I just gave up on this. I mean, it's tricky because yes, there's a lot of factors that make this challenging. One, when it comes to food, because I do more than just food. Food is a piece of my overall health optimization, but, we have been eating since we're born. Our parents are putting food in our mouth and they're telling us this is healthy, this is unhealthy. And even if they have the best intentions, doesn't mean they have the right information. And then there's propaganda. There's trillion-dollar industries that are motivated to get you to eat a certain way. So I run into a lot of, there's the emotional part because, when you eat the food that is designed, like the average American food, sadly, it's designed to give you, the second it hits your tongue, this dopamine hit. When you eat a Dorito, when you get fat, salt, MSG, and sugar on your tongue at the same time, boom, you just took cocaine, literally. It's a lower down version of cocaine. So every time people are eating, they're eating cocaine. And when you're doing that, you're actually not enjoying the food. You're doing it just for the drug. So it's tough. I'm trying to get people to say, nature made a cherry. You can't recreate that. And that's where all the health benefits are in. Because in a cherry, there are carbs. There's these good carbs that feed your brain some glucose. But there's the color, the polyphenols, that dark color, that's an antioxidant, has fiber, it feeds your gut. So fruits are like these perfectly designed, like gifts to make us healthy. But when you're eating candy, and the candy's cheaper than the fruit, it's like, it's tough.
Jason, I have cherries right here, number one.
Oh my God.
Taught me. And, I also eat blackberries like they're candy, and that's how I get the children to eat them because they're better than candy, the latest blackberries. I want to ask you a question because I actually met Jason in a community that he was describing at our friend's backyard. I met him at a backyard market in Delray Beach, or in Boca. And it's like, when I met Jason, I wanted to ask you a couple questions about just your specific background in Ayurvedic science because he has these beautiful spices that I bought. I'm still cooking with them. They're amazing. I put them in soup and potatoes and vegetables. They're amazing. So if you can share a little bit about your like specific Ayurvedic spice backgrounds, kind of just dive a little deeper into like, I'm curious how you got so passionate about that specifically because his spices are amazing.
This is a great story. So one of my earliest memories, like literally like 5 years old, my father was a cook in the house. So he's in the kitchen cooking. I climb up on the counter and he's got a spice rack. And, again, I was just learning to read and you have like all these spices, clove, rosemary, sage, right? And I'm literally opening up the spices and smelling them for the first time in this lifetime. Ooh, clove. And,
how old were you?
5 years old.
How old were you?
5 years old. So my earliest memory is like smelling spices and reading the name. And that was just always amazing. I always loved spices. Me and my father, we'd go to Indian restaurants, Chinatown, and we love Mexican food. We love the spices and we'd love to cook together. Then I travel and I'm like, I want to get into health. And, Chinese medicine, I was looking at Chinese medicine and then I heard about Ayurveda. Chinese medicine, it's a lot of like teas and like, mix these things. You take this pill. What I loved about Ayurveda was the medicine was the turmeric, the cumin, the coriander, the fennel. That's actually the medicine. You put it in your food. When I heard that, I'm like, this is like the greatest thing I ever heard because I love cooking. I love spices and the most beautiful. So I studied that with this guy named Dr. David Frawley. I went to India. I studied Ayurveda there. But really what's so exciting is the modern research, which shows that the spices, the cumin, the coriander, all of these things have polyphenols that actually do what the ancient Ayurvedic texts say. So when you mix cumin, fennel, coriander, and turmeric and cardamom, which is my spice blend, when you put that in your food with beans, you're going to digest it better. It's going to help you digest. It's going to have all these other antioxidant benefits. So that's my Ayurvedic background.
That's beautiful. When you say easier, it helps the gut process. Like I think a lot of people are unaware about how hard your body's working when you're eating. They don't realize like your body's working harder when you're trying to process the Dorito. It's working less when you have all Jason's spices on your potato. So don't eat the Dorito because your body's working really hard. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, exactly. It's like people take it for granted. We just shove food in our mouth, but like, it goes into your stomach. Your stomach is like so acidic. If you put your hand in your stomach acid, it would like burn your hand really badly. So that's in your stomach. Then it goes into the small intestine, which is actually alkaline. So there's all these things, and that's where the enzymes kick in. So I'm not even going to begin to pretend I know how this works. But we do know that the microbiome plays a major role in this process. So, yeah, the spices like cumin is called a carminative. It means it dispels gas. So they all do different things, these spices. But one of the things they do is, like the movement of food through your intestines and your stomach is called peristalsis. This is a very complicated, like movement, like undulations. So the cumin allows you to like kind of move that along a little bit. A lot of these spices help it move along. But again, they do probably millions of different things. But one thing they do is that, they reduce the gas. They reduce colon cancer, stomach cancer. and they just make you feel more at ease when you eat them. You eat fennel. When you go to Indian restaurants, at the end, they give you a little thing of fennel. You chew on the fennel. It just feels like, it's just clean. It just feels clean. You could feel it, and your tongue is the beginning of your digestive system. So it's why it's really important to taste the spices and the herbs, because that's what it's going to, like, you could start to taste it in your gut, because it's kind of like what it tastes like on your tongue is what it's going to feel like in your gut.
What is the connection with the gut and then going into the space of us being able to find mindfulness, find peacefulness, find harmony in our life? How do we transition from that part to, once we understand the body? Because there's a lot to it. And I think we're lucky to have people like you that can break it down and make it more palatable, pun intended, make it more palatable and make it understandable to us. How do we then cross into this space of mindfulness, this space of harmony altogether, mind, body?
Beautiful question. And let me start by saying, I should have said this earlier. It's a two-way street. So your emotions and your thoughts are going to actually affect your gut tremendously. That's why you get butterflies in your stomach. So in your gut, so your emotions are going to affect your gut. Your gut is going to, your physical gut health is going to affect your emotions. So if you are, surrounded by love and you're living in flow state, that's going to do so much for your gut health. Even if you're not eating the perfect high fiber diet, but also, like I was saying, like when you eat like a Dorito, you get a burst of dopamine. But when you eat fiber, that fiber gets into your colon, and those bacteria eat it and produce something called serotonin. So dopamine is like the cocaine. Serotonin is like the Prozac. It grounds you. So eating fiber, it's going to give you a grounding effect. You're going to feel content. Whereas if you're eating dopamine, you're getting excited. You're eating, and then you're going to crash. And then you're living in this crash, like cocaine addiction. Got to get my fix, Like, you hate your job, right? You're not happy in your marriage. Like that dopamine is gonna, and it's not just food. It's pornography. It's, Instagram. It's the scrolling. All those things are dopamine, So, we live in a very dopamine culture. Mm-hmm. So there's other ways, like taking a walk in nature also increases serotonin. But eating high fiber foods, having a healthy, like overall, when you're healthy, your body feels grounded, So, and again, it's not that hard. Like it's really like, it's hard when you mess yourself up and you get sick, but the solution is really simple. Like, I like to say, like, horses, they have a diet. Gorillas have a diet, like we have a diet. It's not so complicated. And I just recommend people try the whole food plant-based diet, high fiber, high polyphenol, low fat diet for like 2 months and see how you feel. It's all it really takes. It takes about 2 weeks to grow new taste buds. It takes about 3 weeks for your brain to adjust to lower levels of fat. Like, so in other words, if you're eating like high fat diet and then you wait 3 weeks, half the amount of fat you eat, like you eat a little bit of olive oil, it's going to feel like you just ate like something very rich. But if you're eating rich foods, brain is always going to desire more rich foods, which are always more calorie dense. And then it takes about 1 month for like the dopamine addiction to wear off. So if you go through a month, like people like, like I always say, when you start this journey with me, like the you now and the cravings you have now are not going to be the same you in 1 month. Mm-hmm. But if you're trying to imagine, how am I going to give this up? And I don't tell people to give things up. I always encourage, just add. Mm-hmm. So in my program, we learn to make like beans and potatoes and fermented vegetables. So I just encourage, keep adding this stuff in, and then it can replace one meal. And then you see how you feel. And then little by little, you're going to snack on an apple. Because I eat a lot of food. That's a great thing about the whole food plant-based diet. It's very nutrient rich and calorie poor or calorie deficient. So you get to actually eat more food.
Jason, do you find a difference when you work with female identifying clients or male identifying clients in terms of how they approach gut health, how they approach their well-being and harmony. Because honestly, in the industry, something that Heather had mentioned to before, it's really a female dominated type of, it's like we're the females only ones that care about, the way they look, and therefore they are looking into what's healthy, in some ways. So it seems like it's more, but we know that's not the case. But what is your experience, and do you see a difference? And then also in the connection with their spirituality, their mindfulness in creating harmony in their lives?
Yeah, it's a great question. You're totally right. I mean, I would say 90% of my clients are women. I have had a couple of men who did really good with my program. So I guess you could say like the men who get it do very well. And the women, this has been a learning curve for me. You know what I mean? As a man without a woman's brain. And I've come to learn that the women's brain is actually 5 times more powerful than a man's brain. But that has a downside too, in that it's powerful and it can be used against them when they get overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. So, but I'm learning techniques to help a woman stay safe. I think that's the important thing. If a woman can be calm and safe, they have really good experiences with my programs. Whereas I notice like, if they already feel like, I've had experiences where they feel like, oh, I didn't do the cooking lesson right. They're mad at me. And then if I show that I'm mad, or like show like, oh, why didn't you do it? Like this was like, why didn't you at least tell me you didn't do it? Like then
they shut down. Shut down. Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely something I've been learning. And yeah, it's, but like I said, honestly, when it comes to food, it's challenging for everybody. This food is such an emotional thing. Mm-hmm. Someone could, you even same thing with smoking. The doctor's like, if you don't quit smoking, you're going to die. I'm like, okay, I can't stop myself. Do you want to live? Yeah, but I can't stop smoking. It's unconscious. So that's really my fascination, is the unconscious. So I used to go on podcasts all the time, go give lectures and just talk about like, I'm going to give you an hour and a half of nothing but reasons why you should eat fiber. And people would walk out and not remember a thing I said and not change. And now I'm understanding I need to understand. I need to start telling stories more I mean, I'm open to suggestions. If you guys want to give me something off this call, I'd love to. I'm constantly training to be more effective because I'm a nerd. I love research. I'm like, show me the evidence. And you had mentioned like, it's true. You go on the internet, you can get it's more confusing than ever. Like, who do you know how to trust? But, it's like, there are different types of research studies, and it's too long to explain that. But the point is like, if you look at the longest, best studies, and I could recommend some movies that explain this, but yeah, it's a challenge. I'm really trying to work with the women more effectively. So
yeah. Jason, you mentioned this word consciousness on Mindful City podcast. I think it's one of the reasons that I was so grateful that you said yes to coming on. So thank you. Share with us, I think a little bit more about your philosophy. We talked about earlier transformation and how that correlates to the vessel being clean, the gut health being dialed in, as far as how you work with some of your clients in the transformation space for their lives.
Yes, thank you so much. We are like the ancient texts, Buddhism, alchemy, they all talk that we're made up of 4 or 5 elements, right? We have physical, we have emotional, we have like the energetic or the spiritual, we have the intellectual, and then we have our soul, our uniqueness. So yeah, that's really my passion, is to work with people on all those levels, right? And the food is a part of it. The health is very important, but really, like I said, I met this guy. I heard him on a podcast, and I reached out to him. His name is John Lenhart, and I actually have a background in psychology. That was really my training, and I got into Eastern philosophy, Buddhism. I've been studying and teaching Buddhism for 20 years. But Buddhism is really about meditation. It's really about going into deep states of meditation. It doesn't really quite have the teachings like on how to relate to other people, right? How to be a business person, right? So I, through my experience, came to realize that the answer was flow state. And I had a great mentor, Dr. Faye Mandel. She passed away, but she really got this idea into me. And then I had a few, but then when I heard this guy, John Lenhart, I knew flow is the answer, and he had a way to explain flow and how to get into it. And it has to do with understanding our uniqueness. Like every one of us gets into flow in different ways. We're not taught this. And he goes to schools and teaches this to teachers and parents and kids, and has amazing success. So this has really been like my total passion lately. So yeah, I love to teach people, like when you're in flow, you're producing all the pleasure chemicals, dopamine, serotonin, GABA. So I actually like to think before you even try to get into changing your food and everything, get into flow. You know, when you're in flow, you heal better. People find you more attractive. Like every single benefit is there when you're in flow. So you could say that my two passions are like meditation states and flow states. So yeah, and that's another piece of working with people, is helping people in flow states. And there's one more thing that I really am passionate about, and I call it the Wheel of Bliss. And this is basically like, have you heard of the term ikigai?
Yes.
Or dharma, right?
Yeah.
So it means like, you know, we're used to being put in a box. Like, I got a degree in this, so therefore I do this. But I've come to realize through all my experience that everyone has some gift that they didn't create. It came with them. Just like your liver cell doesn't have to get a degree and learn how to be your brain cell just becomes a brain cell. I think we are the cells of all of humanity, are different cells, like that community. So we're all chasing, feeling like we're not enough. And it's like, we already have in us our greatest gift, and our life has guided us. God has guided us to get all the things we learn. So if you're 30, 40 years old, you got everything you need. Now it's time to just put it out there and own it. So I like to help people figure that out. But the other side of that is, what is your true desire? Like, my desire is to take baths outside surrounded by trees. I want to do, so you mentioned transformative experiences. I want to do 10 retreats around the world, 10 transformative experiences around the world, and bring on the
take
best
baths
people.
into each country. Are we going to go get to take baths outside in each country? That's amazing. Can I come?
Absolutely. I'll take you. You can come be part of these transformative experiences. I have an amazing woman named Lisa. She does vocal activation. We have Vanessa. We have, dancing. So I really want to create experiences where, yes, I could bring the food and we could bring meditation, but we're going to have dancing. So we could take people who are stressed out, making lots of money, take them to a place, and just like the whole time they're dancing, they're singing, they're doing things they've never done. They're connecting with people they're going to be friends with for life. To me, like, that's the goal right there. Mm-hmm. So that's my passion. So when I work with people one-on-one, I like to find out, like, if you didn't have to worry about money and you didn't even have to work, like, what would you be doing? Which is a very hard question, because from the minute we're in kindergarten, we're trained to think you're going to work. And sure, like I said, when you do your purpose, it doesn't feel like work. But then at the same time, you still got to pay attention to, like, what do I really want? Like, what's my bliss? And then the third
everybody forgot.
Exactly. And then the third part to this.
Jason's here to remind them.
Thank you. So you got your purpose, you got your bliss, and then how do you achieve that? Through your soul family. So there's people who you can do business with. There's people who, like, good to see you. But who are the people who really get you and see you for who you are? If you have one of those people in your life, spend time with that person. See them every week. And then try to find more people like that. We live in a world where we're connected on Facebook and social media, but find 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. That's your soul family. who reach you on all 4 levels, the physical, the emotional, the creative, the spiritual. They love you for who you are, not for what you do and what you have. And it's okay to have all different friends, but find those people. And so I like to guide people through that. So
Through that.
yeah.
You know, Jason, you've taken us on an incredible journey today, because not only are we looking at understanding the brain of the gut, you know, in a way, but also this connection of how it allows us to connect to our purpose and to connect to our soul family, and how these are all connected, and then also making us well. and then the gut's even better. And I just love how you've displayed that for us and showing that connection, and so grateful for what you're doing in the community and shining light on this topic. Because as we know, there's so much information out there and so little at the same time. And we need those of you, we need Jasons, you know, to be out there to break it down for us and guide us to, finding that harmony within ourselves and outside of ourselves. So thankful, Heather, also for bringing Jason onto the show. And Jason, thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thank you so much. You guys have been amazing hosts. You really brought out like my passion. So I really appreciate you.
To find out more about gut health and healing, visit Jason at jasondemchock.com or optimizeguthealth.com.